Our speaker today is Kim Johnson, and I got to know Kim a few years ago and have just been so impressed with her leadership. She has a long-standing history with the Tulsa City-County Library system, and you've been the leader now, I looked this up, 5 years?
4 years.
4. COVID year counts as 2 years.
That's right. Okay, 5 years.
And so as CEO of the City-County Library system, she has a huge job for what is such an essential part of our community. And as I was thinking about institutions and what their missions were, but also how that mission shows up during this strange year we've had, I thought about the library system, which is such an anchor for our community. So Kim, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to mute myself. Harriet, you can share your screen whenever you and Kim are ready. And thank you for being a part of our program, Kim.
Well, good morning, Leadership Tulsa. And thank you so much, Wendy, for the invitation to share how the Tulsa City-County Library system has adapted to meet the needs of our customers throughout the pandemic. Let me start by stating the obvious. It has been a trying year for us all, and every leader in every industry had many tough calls to make throughout 2020. We've never experienced a global health crisis that altered every aspect of our lives and the service delivery of our organizations. And every decision directly correlated to the health and well-being of our customers, staff, and our communities. And each decision held massive consequences. And so it was with this weight that leaders everywhere forged ahead, not knowing what was ahead or how long the pandemic would last. So for public libraries and the Tulsa City-County Library in particular, these weighty decisions impacted us in 2 distinct ways. First, leaning on our goals of promoting lifelong learners, contributing to stronger communities, and cultivating engaged employees as our guidepost, we were keenly aware of the responsibility we had, not just to the 382,000 plus cardholders, but to all citizens of Tulsa County who rely on the library for their informational, educational, and recreational pursuits. Secondly, it was imperative to make critical decisions to sustain the business functions that support the services we provide to the public. So let's start at the beginning. Before the pandemic, nearly 3 million people visited our 24 locations throughout the county. We circulated over 9 million items, facilitated more than 570,000 PC sessions, and over 864,000 Wi-Fi connections annually. Before the first COVID case was reported in Tulsa County, the library was already dealing with an emergency that made news. In February last year, the newly renovated Central Library, the headquarters for the system, was the site of a fire caused by arsonists. The 5-story building had to close for remediation and repairs. And in many ways, this was a dress rehearsal for what was to come. The library system's call center for all locations is housed at Central Library. We planned for what we would do if an emergency prevented us from gaining access to Central Library. The plan was to move the call center to one of the other 23 locations. A time-consuming task, but it was one that we prepared for. And so the call center was moved to prevent a disruption in service. Just a few weeks after select floors of Central Library reopened to the public, the entire library system closed due to the pandemic. Knowing how many people rely on the library, we made the very difficult decision to close all locations, including the outdoor book return boxes, so as not to contribute to the community spread of the virus. And I'll elaborate on that in a moment. With all locations closed, the library systems call center, the one housed at Central Library, could not be moved to another location. And with no way for customers to contact their library, our first big hurdle was to find a way to remain accessible to our customers. We were able to get equipment to our employees and train additional staff to handle the anticipated call volume. The first 4 months of the pandemic, we fielded over 22,000 calls, emails, text, and chat interactions. The staff adjusted quickly to remote work and was able to stand up a myriad of services to support customers virtually. While in this initial stage, we continue to provide many free digital services, such as ebooks and e-audiobooks, streaming movies, TV and music services, as well as access to digital magazines and newspapers. All of these services were accessible before the pandemic. A high priority was also placed on continuing to offer engaging programs to support those who were quarantining or feeling isolated. Using their cell phones and props from their homes, staff offered 2,762 virtual programs from May through December, with nearly 88,000 people attending. One of our yoga programs streamed on Facebook Live had 438 views in just 36 hours. With staff able to successfully leverage technology to deliver quality programs virtually, we were intensely aware of the growing digital divide that worsened during the pandemic and did not want that reality to exclude anyone from fully engaging with the library. Public libraries have always been at the forefront of helping to close the digital divide by providing free computer access and Wi-Fi, as I stated earlier. For those without internet connectivity, we did a small thing that had a big impact. We incorporated telephone programming. The library's main telephone line included an option to hear a 5-minute fiction reading, a poem, or a 3-minute children's story. Looking for every opportunity to offer programs that didn't rely on the internet, the library partnered with RSU TV to air children's programming. For 2 hours every Friday, last spring and fall, the library offered educational programming for our youngest customers and their families. Over the last several years, the library's Wi-Fi connections outpaced PC use, indicating an increasing number of library users own their own device, but rely on the library for Wi-Fi. To accommodate these customers, the library installed access points to extend its Wi-Fi to cover the parking lots of all of our 24 library locations, making free Wi-Fi service available to the public 24/7. We had over 50,000 sessions in the first 3 months of launching the service. And to support distance learners, we're offering checkout hotspots. Students from elementary school to college can visit any location to check out a hotspot for their use. While traditional library services were augmented, we continue to play a critical role in making internet access available to all and helping to close the digital divide. And as we witness the unemployment rates increase, the library wanted to do its part to help. And so we eliminated all library late fees, which can be a barrier, preventing customers from taking full advantage of library services. We also answered the call for healthcare workers in need of masks. While working remotely, staff used the library's sewing machines to make cloth masks, and our 3D printers were put to great use to make plastic shields. Staff donated 1,300 masks to the community. At the same time we were working to stand up innovative services to the customers, we were simultaneously sourcing PPE, medical grade cleaners, updating our pandemic preparedness plan, and creating new policies for remote work that didn't exist before the pandemic. while also making physical adjustments to our buildings that included installing plexiglass partitions at all public service touch points. And in order to continue assisting our customers with computer questions while in the branch and maintaining a safe distance, we installed software to assist customers remotely with their computer needs. We installed washable keyboards at all PCs to maintain new cleaning standards. I should also add that when we closed initially in March, we also sealed our book drops, as I mentioned earlier, to encourage customers to hold on to their materials that they had checked out. We expected a large volume of materials to be returned, so we planned to use the meeting rooms at all locations to quarantine these materials before returning them to the shelves. So when we reopened for curbside a few weeks after closing in March and unsealed the book drops to accept returning materials, over 200,000 items were returned and quarantined. And so where are we now? Currently, all locations have been offering curbside service. We like to call it Curbside Plus because we also facilitate printing, faxing, 3D printing pickup through our curbside service. We're in phase 2 of our reopening plan. 8 of our 24 locations expanded its services beyond curbside and are welcoming customers inside the building. The remaining locations will continue offering curbside. As we emerge from a hiring freeze, additional libraries will soon follow. We continue to monitor the data from the CDC and the Tulsa Health Department before moving to full service in phase 3. And we look forward to the day when all locations are open without pandemic restrictions. While the pandemic continues to present many challenges, hurdles, and disruptions, it has also created many opportunities for organizations to innovate, expand its services, and discover new ways to deliver the products we offer. In closing, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our amazing customers and my awesome library staff for being flexible and adaptive throughout this unprecedented experience. And before I turn it back over to you, Wendy, I invite you all to visit the Tulsa Library. And if you need a library card, you can apply online at tulsalibrary.org. Thank you.
I've got to unmute myself. Kim, I am actually blown away. Knowing your attention to detail, I'm not surprised that you all had a very detailed plan, and I love how you've laid out those phases, but there's a lot here that I had no idea of. I'm just truly blown away by all the different ways that you adapted to serve the customers. And so my first question to you is, knowing that some of these things like checking out the digital hotspots and extending your Wi-Fi into the parking lots and the curbside service, which was probably wonderful for differently abled customers, are these things that you, and also the online programming, you know, that's accessible. What kinds of things do you think you'll actually continue past the pandemic emergency? And what kinds of things will you be glad to say, well, that was an era, but we're going to put that to bed?
Good question, Wendy. Well, first, I will say that I'm happy to report that our Tulsa City-County Library is a very innovative library, recognized nationally for our innovation. So prior to the pandemic, our library system went to national conference 2 years ago to train other libraries on how to deliver our services curbside. And so for us, the curbside process was an easy migration. And so that was easy for us. The other programs, which I said, there's many opportunities for us to continue a lot of our virtual programs. I mean, to have 400 plus people in a yoga session where normally we would do Yoga Tuesdays and have 25 people. So those are great opportunities to expand our services into the living rooms and the homes of our customers. And so we'll likely continue that. What we did notice though, is that offering curbside and also offering our traditional in-branch services takes additional people. And so they're two different operations. And so we've been scrambling to be able to continue curbside, even in those locations where we're opening the 8 that I mentioned that we're opening for in-branch service. We want to also continue to offer curbside there as well for those people who are not comfortable coming inside yet. And so what we're learning is that it takes more people to manage both of those services. But in terms of, I don't think there's a service we offered that we would not want to continue. We did several years ago also pilot checkout hotspots. And so we brought that back. And so, so it's, again, lots of great opportunities for us to expand our services and reach more people that may not have thought about the library prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, lots of kudos in the chat thread for you. So you say you have opened 8 libraries now. How did you choose those libraries, and are they kind of serving as pilots as you get as learning more about, and then the phase to open all of them? How did you choose those 8?
Yeah, so initially when we went through several iterations from curbside to open to curbside to opening again. And the first time we opened our 5 largest locations. And for those of you who are not familiar with the library system, we are county-wide. And we have, we opened a library in each quadrant of the county, north, south, east, and west. And then we realized that folks were still driving far to get to one of those locations. So this go around, we wanted to expand that where we were open geographically to meet the needs of more people. And we also had to shift some staff around. As I mentioned, we were on a hiring freeze, and we lost about 70 people as a result. And then we're also operating 2 different services. And so we're also trying to reallocate our staff to be able to open more locations. And so that will come shortly.
Yeah, and then, but the 8, does that include the 5 largest?
It does. It includes the 4 regionals, which is north, south, east, west regionals, as well as our downtown central library. 5 largest ones in the system, and then 3 smaller locations.
So you mentioned that Tulsa City-County Library is known as being extremely innovative in the field. What leads to that innovation? Is it deep in the history? Is it relatively new? Why do you think that's the case?
So I'm also proud to say about 8 years ago, we started looking at what a 21st century library looks like and what a 21st century library should offer. And we realized quickly that our customers are not just library customers. We share customers with those who are traveling in the airports, who are in supermarkets. And so we did an environmental scan of what are people using. You know, at the time, folks were, it was fairly new that folks were checking themselves in at the airport themselves and on their phones and printing their own luggage labels. And so we didn't want our customers to have a different experience at our libraries. And so several years ago, we started innovating and creating more opportunities for self-directed activities. And so we started that process, and then from there we continue to innovate. And again, I think all of those decisions we made 8 years ago prepared us as much as anyone could be prepared for a pandemic for these changes. So it wasn't a huge shift for us to get acclimated to use of technology. It was more of a seamless. Now the rate and the pace, I must tell you, we were not prepared for. But we had a foundation for innovating. And I will also say that we're also a library system that other libraries have flown in to see how we deliver services. And so we're happy about that as well, to be that, leader in the industry nationwide.
Well, that makes me so proud as a Tulsan. And I love that you highlighted the fact that when you were looking for best practices and innovative practices, you didn't just look at libraries around the country. You actually looked at other kinds of businesses where customers were interacting to get those. And I've definitely found that to be the case in my work too, that while I get great ideas from my peer organizations around the country, sometimes great ideas come from companies that are doing completely different work. So I'm definitely going to ask people to put any questions you might have in the chat thread, but we had one earlier, and I think it's a great point about the innovation. So you had mentioned they're checking out hotspots. Teresa Burkup is a fabulous gardener, and she got to check out some tomato seeds that she enjoyed all year. And she wanted to know what other kinds of things people might be able to access at the library that they wouldn't think of.
Yeah, so thank you for that. We do have a seed library. So if you are a gardener or thinking about gardening, especially during this time when food can be scarce, you can go to any library and check out packages of seeds. But we also have a program called, we have a mystery book program where a customer can contact the library, tell us what you'd like to read, themes, characters, genres, and we will package those, your interests, into a kit and deliver that to you curbside. And so I like when the library takes your personal interests and creates our list or book list and deliver that to you. We also have these mystery bags that we developed throughout the pandemic. So for children, if your kids are into fire trucks or you name it, we can put together a list of books and you call them mystery bags, and the kids just absolutely love that, to be able to take home a wrapped box with books to discover once you get home.
Yeah, so there's lots of people excited about that. So, and Elisa notes that she has checked out cake pans from the library.
Yes, we also.
So
something tells me I'm going to forget all the things that we do have to offer, because there's so many, but we do have cake pans also.
Good. And so we have a question from Mary. Once COVID is in the rearview mirror, will it be possible to schedule a orientation for the digital literacy lab? So that's quite a specific question. But,
absolutely. We do, prior to the pandemic, we offered orientations to our digital literacy lab and to our 3D makerspace. And so absolutely, I'm hoping that we don't have to wait until COVID is in the rear view mirror before we're able to open up a little bit more in our phase 3. So yes, the answer to that is yes.
Denise Reed says she loves the job search services that the library offers. Yet another unexpected service. So you all actually have your fingers on so many different things. What do you know about that?
We offer job help, which is, of course, now with the growing unemployment, that is getting a lot of attention and use, and it's online. It's called Job Help Now. All of this is accessible through tulsalibrary.org. And what you can do there is you can upload your resume. First, you can get resume help, but you can also upload your resume and get live feedback on how you can tweak your resume. And a similar service that's for homework help. And so while our students are distance learning, there's a live tutor that can assist students with their homework as well. And so the resume help, I don't want to also miss the opportunity to mention that we also help you in branch with your resume, and which is why it was really important for us to be able to have software that we can reach out to the customer's computer while you're in the branch, so we can continue to provide computer training. We still have a lot of customers that rely on the library for computer training, and also we can help you with your resume while safe distance.
This is really extraordinary. So many ways that you impact the community. And it reminds me, once I said, if you know a librarian, you love a librarian, right? Because they are such an incredible resource. Elisa mentions that the sister program in Beihai, China, their library was inspired in part by ours. So what kind of partnerships do you have in the community? That would be with Sister Cities and the Global Alliance, but how does the library work with other organizations?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we also partner with just about every school district in the county. And so what I mean by that is the students' library, the students' school ID card is also their library card. And so they can access any of our library programs while in school by using their ID card. And that's just a very seamless process so that students are not carrying two IDs. And so that was a huge partnership for us several years ago. So we're really proud of that. We also partner with, I don't know if many people know, but we have a case worker on staff. And that's due in large part to the Zarrow Family Foundation. And so we have a caseworker on staff that helps us with our customers who are experiencing homelessness. And so that caseworker can assist them with resources for housing, or other resources that they would need immediately. And so we're one of the first libraries to also offer that service in the country.
That's great. So with the digital divide that you were talking about, and I know there's been a number of efforts, do you have hope that that is going to be alleviated in the coming years, particularly with the attention, or do you see that being an ongoing issue for our community?
I think we're making good strides, certainly here in Tulsa County. There's lots of great things that are happening. Certainly the library is doing everything it can, as I mentioned today, to provide free Wi-Fi to the public, and as well as the hotspots. But I'm optimistic that we are closing that gap, as everyone in the community is focused on that. And so I really do think we're making huge strides.
So I have a little bit more personal question as we're beginning to think about wrapping this call up, and that is, what have you learned about your own leadership during this crazy year?
Yeah, good question, because I talked about this quite a bit in my leadership team, in my leadership executive team. And what I've learned is something that I've always done anyway, which is it's really important to listen. And it's really important to communicate. And so one of the things I've done more during this pandemic is communicate. And I mean, not just to our customers, we have a really strong social media game, but also internally. So since the pandemic, I started these town halls where the staff can log in, hear what's happening with the library system. But it's really important to listen. It's really important to communicate, especially during times of uncertainty. People don't know, what's happening. They want to hear what's happening in the life of the organization. And we also have a responsibility to our public so that so our customers know what is happening with the library, when we're opening, and how we're continuing to serve them.
And do you know a date yet when you might be fully reopened, or are you still just really watching the situation?
We're watching the numbers, but as I mentioned earlier, we have those 8 libraries open now. And as soon as we recover from our employment freeze, which we are coming out of it, and if anyone's looking for employment or anyone go to tulsalibrary.org. We have several jobs open. And we're making strides quickly. So we anticipate the next round of locations to be open within the next several weeks, and we'll continue down that path.
That's so exciting. It really is exciting. It is beyond exciting to think about the world reopening.
Yes, it is.
So final question for you, Kim. How can we as community leaders best assist you? What kinds of involvement, resources, volunteerism, engagement, advocacy do you need from us?
Yeah, so I think that having this opportunity today to talk about the programs and the services and all that the library does is the first great step, because I'm fully anticipating that those on this call will take this information and share it with others, so that we continue to support and advocate our public library. And so I think that's what I would ask from this group, but I don't think anything else would be supportive. But
great. Denise mentions that you also have a great program supporting the centennial commemoration of the race massacre. So
we do, and so we have a program. I have the brochure here. It's on tulsalibrary.org, where everything is there. We are commemorating the 100th centennial of the race massacre. with author programs. We'll have a exhibit at Rudisill Library in the next couple of months as well. It's a 3-month program brochure, and you can pick that up at any library or go online to see the list of programs.
Well, Kim, I am beyond impressed and appreciative for the way you have led the library system through this crisis. I had no doubt that you were leading it well. I was not aware of some of the ways in which you were serving the community. And we've had lots and lots of people shouting out different ways that they have enjoyed the library this last year. So thank you to you. Thank you to your team. Make sure they know that we appreciate them too.
I will pass that along. Thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, we'll see you all next week, and welcome and to join us again, Kim, if you'd like to sit in on any of these.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.